something. Hey, what's going on, folks? How you doing? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight Art War and co-host of My Brother's Keeper, a Bikers podcast, with my brother Thomas Vestergaard. And hopefully you guys have got a chance to just check out the show we just did with myself and Thomas. And, it was kind of a, Thomas got married over the weekend.
Yeah.
So my brother got married
Mm-hmm.
and he got married at high noon. I said, man, what'd you do? You'll go back to back, take 12 steps, and that's it.
That I do.
But hopefully you guys had a chance to see that. So congratulations to my brother Thomas and Sophia. Wishing you guys all the best. You are amazing. And now it's Monday, and that means it's time for another edition of My Fight Art War, where we bring people coming on and they tell their story. Let's pop OG in here before she acts like she's busy. And she's been busy, man. We had Thomas and all that with the show we just did. And our next guest for My Fight Art War,
who we love dearly,
B. Catlin. And B is someone we met back in June in Athens, Alabama, at an event that Lori had with her and amazing people in Athens, Alabama, surrounding areas, that just had an incredible event. And first time I got to meet everyone in person. A lot of it is, all through social media, comments, stuff like this. So being able to be there and talk to them face to face,
it's a wonderful feeling.
B and her family that she was there with, the energy. And I was just telling B, this is the first time I got to see her since the event, and it looks absolutely beautiful. She's glowing, and she's got the personality. It's just contagious. And this is not just now, but when we met her, when it was for the meet and greet the day before the event, the energy that you could feel coming from B.
Beautiful.
And it wasn't all about just B. It was about, who could I help? How could I share this? How could I do that? We told her what we do, and bam, she wanted to come on. So without further ado,
here we go.
Let's get B on here.
Yeah, you can throw me in the green room if you
Let's
like.
throw you in the green room.
Oof.
There she is. B. Catlin, welcome to My Fight Art War, man. I was just giving everyone a little update on how we met in Alabama.
Absolutely, Athens, Alabama, baby.
Man, I'm not kidding. When your energy is just so contagious, man.
Thank you.
It seriously is, and that was a wild weekend.
Yep.
It was.
We're definitely going to get into everything, because I mean, you never know what to expect, and boy, no one saw what was coming. And
no,
you're a big part of that, so we're going to get to that. But first of all, welcome and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's an honor.
Well, the honor is ours, because July 29th.
Yes.
July 29th is a very, very, very special day. Why don't you tell everyone what July 29th is?
July 29th is my graduation date. I am part of a sober living. It's called Sisters United in Hartsville, Alabama. And I will have completed my year program, which is very important to me. It's played a big part in my recovery. And it's also something that it was a goal of mine that I set to start and complete. And I'm about to complete it. I got my 1 year chip the other night, and that was just surreal. That was surreal. The fact that I never thought I'd live to get a 1 year chip. I never thought I'd live to get a 30-day chip, just being honest. I was out there, it's just, but I did. And it's been a beautiful journey that I can't wait to continue, and watch these other girls that I'm a part of this with, blossom and grow. It's just been amazing.
Isn't it crazy? You know what about the 1 year, how you said, I never thought you know, that
Oh,
can
yeah.
be when I first got out of the hospital, I was 30 days sober, which has
Right.
never happened. And I met this guy who was 35 years clean. And
Right.
I remember I said to him, I go, man, how long have you been sober again? And he goes, 35 years. I was like, damn. He goes, well, how about you? And I just like this, B, I went 30 days. Just like that. He looked at me, he goes, how long? I go, just 30 days. He goes, why'd you say it like that? And I go, you've been sober 35 years, man. I've only been sober 30 days. He goes, don't you ever say only. He goes, when's the last time?
Never minimize.
30 days.
Mm-mm.
And I go, I can't remember. He goes, Manny, he goes, I had to be sober 30 days before I was sober 35 years.
That's right.
Um, But that
It
is
is.
awesome, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations, man.
Thank
And
you.
you know, the thing is, this is the beautiful part of recovery. Right
It
now,
is.
right here, you and hearing this, but there's another side of this, which is
Oh, yeah.
and that's what we're going to kind of jump into right now. And
Absolutely.
that being said, you know, with everybody, life growing up, their childhood is so different. Some people, their first memories are watching mom, you know, get her ass kicked by dad going
Right.
to jail, brothers and sisters doing drugs. Their first memories. How was growing up like for B?
You know, I always tell people, I'm like, it was okay. It was like being a child with rose-colored glasses on. Like I had a great childhood on one hand. Like on this, I really did. But I was so little at the time, I didn't know. Like my dad was an addict. My dad was an alcoholic, and he was a cocaine addict. And he was not a very nice, not to us, but you know, him and my mom. It got physical sometimes, but I didn't know. I was so little. I was 2, 3 years old, 4 years old when this was going on. And you know, I love my parents. You know, love my parents, but I know that, you know, he would have these, you know, daddy would have these outbursts, you know, at my mom. And, you know, I remember it getting physical one time and, you know, my mom telling him, you know, you've got to get help or I want a divorce, you know, and I'm taking the kids. And I didn't realize till I was older that that's what it was. I just remember my dad disappearing for a year when he went to rehab and got help. So there was that, you know, but once my dad went to rehab, you know, he stayed clean till the day he died, you know, and
Fabulous.
awesome person, was just a inspiration. And my mom was just amazing. You know, both my parents were just, as parents, they were the best. They were just amazing people, amazing influences, supportive, encouraging. We were late in life babies, me and my brother. My parents didn't have us till they had my brother at 38, me at 41.
Wow.
So right. And you know, me and my brother are ADHD. Let me go and throw that out there. We're ADHD. So you got 50-year-olds with, you know, 2 ADHD toddlers. You know, that was, you know, God bless him for that alone. Because yeah.
He's like, man, what a time to quit drinking.
Yeah, right. He was like, oh man. I told my mom one time, she was like, she used to say all the time, what is Jesus? Why? And I'd be like, I don't know, Mom. I don't know. That was my thing. I don't know. It's like this, you know, but I had a really good, you know, childhood, you know, like I said, there was, you know, my dad was an addict, but I was so sheltered, which played a part in that really hindered me later on in life, being sheltered like that. You know, you're supposed to shelter your kids to some extent, but I was, it really worked against me later on. You know, I wish my parents would have let me, you know, experience life a little bit. Because as I got older, it just, you know, I was naive, was gullible. Yeah. And it led me down some really dark and twisted paths. You know, so, but other than that, you know, great childhood, huge family. I mean, so like I go to family reunions and I meet people and I'm like, they're like, hey cousin. I'm like, I have no idea who you are. Like are we 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th cousins? I don't have a clue.
You said that your dad, right from the get-go, dealing with an addict, but
yes,
your mom said lay down the law, recovery,
yep.
I'm gone. He went to rehab.
Went to rehab.
How long was he after?
He was gone a year. He was gone a year.
How long was he in addiction for? How long was he an addict?
Oh, he probably was in addiction. You know, my dad was a Vietnam vet. Okay, so this was before me and my brother. He was in addiction before me and my brother were born, and it continued up until it continued up until I was, you know, like I said, maybe I probably 4 at the time. At which point, you know, because it was getting worse over time, and he was getting violent over time towards my mother. And like my parents had been together since they were 12. They were each other's first loves, you know, and like they were married till they're both deceased now. But yeah, he was in addiction for a long time, and it was it was really bad. I remember him slapping my mom's glass. The incident that caused her to like pump the brakes was, you know, she was sitting in the living room reading her newspaper, and I remember I had, you know, those little toys that go, it looks like a little baton, and it's got a little thing in it that goes, it makes noises as you tilt it. Okay, so I remember it like it was yesterday. It's crazy the stuff you remember from that far back. But I remember having it and, like, you know, just tilting it because I was just so fascinated with the fact that it made noise. And my mom's just sitting there reading the newspaper, and I can't remember the words or what was, conversed between them, but I just remember my dad slapping my mom just out of nowhere. And you know, me being, you know, I'm seeing my dad hit my mom. So my instinct is I want to protect my mom. So I jump on his back, you know, and I was a daddy's girl, huge daddy's girl. And I didn't understand, my little mind at the time couldn't understand really what was going on, but I know I jumped on his back, and, you know, my dad, you know, I guess he was just, his instinct was to get me off of him. And he grabbed me, and he was trying to throw me towards the couch, but he missed because he was drunk and on cocaine. And I hit the wall, and I remember my mom just going irate. That was the day that, you know, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the day. She was like, you know, this is it. Like, you've got to get help, you know. And I just remember that day because I remember thinking, you know, my dad, he was just, you know, I had him on a pedestal, you know, and to see him to do that to my mom, you know, just really, you know, I didn't have the words to verbalize the emotions at the time because I was so young, but, you know, it hurt me and scarred me a little emotionally seeing that, you know.
Yeah. So it's something like that, man. And, you know, God bless him, because he, after being in active addiction all that time, he did the right thing. So God bless him, man. Just like, you know, for you. So, you know, seeing that, and like you said, you were sheltered, which is good up to a point. But, you know, I'd heard you say that not being able to experience some things, gullible, naive. How did that affect some of the decisions that you made?
Oh, it affected me so negatively. Like, I remember moving out on my own for the first time. You know, I'm from Altoona, okay, which is, you know, it's real. You can Google it. It's not in Pennsylvania. It's in Alabama. It's called Altoona, Alabama. Every time I tell somebody that, they're like, "Where in the world?" I'm like, "It's on the map. I promise. It's no bigger than like you go from one county to the next within like 3 minutes, but it's there." But you know, I grew up in a very small town. It's a generational, you know, everybody that's there, it's multi-generational back, very tight-knit community. It's one of those, it's like Andy Griffith, it's like Mayberry, you know, everybody helps raise everybody's child, you know, and it's a wonderful community. So that being said, you know, having grew up in that type of town, okay, when I got older and, you know, started getting into my crazy stuff, you know, and decided I wanted to move out on my own because I was an adult. I decided to move to Gaston, which is the city for me, you know, because I'm from Altoona. So Gaston, Alabama would be the city for me. And being around people that I wasn't used to being around, I was very, it was like leading a lamb to the slaughter. It's like, that's what I really think about. And when I think back to those days, I was being led to the slaughterhouse. Like, I just had no idea what was waiting for me, men wise, drug wise, friend wise, people that I thought were my friends. You know, I thought I had life figured out. I didn't have anything figured out. I hadn't been through anything. I hadn't experienced anything. Pretty much every decision for me up to that point was made for me. So it was very, it's very eye opening, and it was detrimental at one, to a degree, because it I made a lot of wrong decisions and went down a lot of wrong paths, and which all led me to today. But
How
just,
old, because you moved out on your own. So
Uh-huh.
like you said, hey man, I'm an adult now. I know it all.
yeah,
So how old were you when that first, sample of going to the dark side, man, the addiction, whether it was drugs, alcohol? Well, how old were you when you had that first experience? And what was that experience? What was it that
okay,
you
my
had?
first experience. Okay, do we want the smoke? Do we want the weed, or do we want the heavier stuff? Because high
Where you
school,
started? Where you
okay, high
started?
school, I did the regular dabbling around in what you would call
Mhm.
the social norms of experimenting throughout, which it was later. It was like 15, maybe 16. I really didn't start because, like I said, my parents had a pretty tight rein. They kept tabs on me. But 15, 16 years old, I tried weed, alcohol, and I did it socially throughout high school. It was never a problem. But then I graduated high school. I had got a scholarship, academic scholarship to Gadsden State. And I was in school for about a year, and I met my son's father. And like I said, I had smoked marijuana, drank a little bit up until that point. But this is when I got introduced to OxyContin.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's crazy because I was always one of those people. I look back and I was always one of those people that was like, I'll never do drugs. Like I was always the girl that said I'd never let a man hit me.
Mm-hmm.
Check that box. Okay. I tried OxyContin for the first time after my son was born. He was 6 months old. I was on my way to the crawfish broil, and I remember my son's father. I'm not going to say his name to protect his, but
Yeah.
he was in addiction at the time as well, which I didn't know. I knew, like, we were college kids too. Mind you, we had a 6-month-old, but we were still college age kids in college,
Mm-hmm.
and so I didn't know it was. I didn't know it was what it was. I thought it was just recreational use.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, we were on our way to the crawfish broil. This is my first time going out since my son was born. So I'm trying to have a good time. I'm thinking I'm gonna have a few shots. So we get to Walmart to get some drinks before we head down to Birmingham, and he breaks out this pill and he's like, "You want to do half of it?" And I don't know. Curiosity killed the cat. Like I've always been a curious person, and I decided to try it. And I remember that feeling I got when I tried it. And when they tell you that you have that feeling, it's like, whew, I'd like to have that again. Like the feeling is so intense, you're just like, you want it again. But I remember getting so sick, like I said, this is my first time, so it was an OC80. And he crushed it, and we split it in half in the parking lot. And I remember making it to the automated doors at Walmart and just vomiting profusely. And
That
I do
quick.
not remember,
Wow.
vomiting profusely. And I cannot remember a thing after the crawfish broil, or at the crawfish broil. But I also remember a part of me wanting to feel that warm feeling again that I had, that warm feeling. So I ended up trying it again. And I remember this time, like the next time I didn't do as much, and I had energy, and that was just amazing to me. Because mind you, I have a 6-month-old, and I'm still trying to do school, so I'm like, I have energy, I feel good. And it was just the most torrid. I had a love affair with opiates that went on for years, 10, 12 years, a long time, and it took me down through there. I did every opiate you could think of, fentanyl, heroin, roxycodones. I was on those really bad, and also methadone. Had to detox off that. Every opiate you could think of.
And what B is something you said, in your life, like you said, man, 15 years old. I talked to some people who are guests on this show that are shooting up by the time they're 10. 11 years
Yeah.
old. And now that, and like for me, I was kind of the same way. I started drinking and stuff like 14, sneaking beers and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I was kind of like the same thing. And I always looked at it, even like smoking weed, that's not drugs, you know.
Right, right.
And for me, drugs were if you had to shoot up.
Yeah.
That's drugs. If
Yeah.
you're doing pills, that's not a drug. It's a pill.
Yeah,
why
it is.
the way you justify it.
Yeah.
So here you got this going on. So it goes from the pills.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like I jumped straight. Most kids, they want to experiment. They start off like why I started off. I can't tell you why I started off with all. Like that's the type of personality. It's just extreme. So I guess I decided I thought OxyContin would be the way to get it started. And
she's like, I'm all in. She's like,
yeah, and I've always wondered, because I have friends that experimented. Like we all experimented growing up, and they were able to lay it down, and it was like. But when I tried it, it was like a switch flipped. And I just like I've had so many nights where, I've just sat and just cried, and I'm like, I don't understand why I'm different. Like I don't like I had honest conversations and talks with God, because to see the hurt I put my parents through, my child through, as he got older. I just couldn't understand why I was different and why I couldn't be like them. Like how were they able to try this and they're okay, and I tried it and it has consumed my life. Like I don't, and like I said, being in this rehab and in this program, I've learned so much about addiction and about my addiction. And I've learned, this is a disease. It is truly a disease. It really is. Some people can catch a cold and shake it, and some people it lingers for.
And that's just it too. I've had people come on, and it's just like you hear the term, just recreational. For me and my guys, it's like, they come right out, man. You have a few drinks? Well, no, you drink until you pass out. That's
drink
the whole
until you pass out.
Well, okay, doing drugs. Well, you do a few, you do a little bit just to feel good. No, you do as much as you can to feel great.
Yeah.
And then you start over again.
Right.
And so, I get it. And what you said too, as far as people don't get is with it's a disease. With what you also brought up a couple of things about what you put your parents through, man. And people sometimes will have on here, and I did it because I remember when I was getting the talks, how I'm sure you had those, what, Manny, you're ruining your life. You're hurting. I go, I'm only hurting myself. I'm the one doing it. No, we're not. Man, we're hurting loved ones. How did it affect your mom and dad, your relationship with mom and dad?
Oh, my parents were very, they were from a different generation. And like I said, my dad was an addict, but like still they were from a different generation, and they couldn't, my parents, I remember my mom crying one time, and just, this is after I'd had my son, and her crying, and, her saying, it's like, are we not enough? Like, are we not enough? Tell me why you can't. I mean, she was being sincere. She just wanted to know, why can't you just stop? Like, is your son not enough? This is a statement she made to me. And, my son, absolutely, my heart of hearts, absolutely. But my addiction was so strong at that point, and I remember telling her, I want to stop. I want to stop. I don't know how. Like, I don't know how. And, it's like I said, small town, small community. So, and that's the thing with small towns, communities, a lot of times they like things to be hush, hush, addiction, they want to keep it on the, and that's not, it's not something that you do. You don't do that. Addiction is nothing. It's not, there's people need to destigmatize, this right here. That is something that, a lot of people don't seek help because they're afraid of being judged and shamed. And there's nothing wrong in seeking help. There's nothing wrong in seeking help, at all. I had someone tell me one time, there's nothing wrong with being sick, but if there's treatment, there's something wrong with staying sick,
Yeah.
And
With the
Absolutely.
parents,
Yeah.
you nailed too with mom and dad. When you're my son, aren't we enough?
Yeah.
The things what we put our loved ones through, and I've
Oh,
had
man.
some parents who will come on and they don't understand it. They never did drugs. They don't
Right.
understand it, and they're like, just stop. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I go, please think about this. You like for your parents, I'd be like,
Yeah.
do you know how much B absolutely loves you guys? She loves
Yes.
you so much, but if you give this handful of pills or go see your mom and dad, she's going to pick those pills. That's how
Absolutely.
strong addiction is. And when they try to relate it to something like that, that's how powerful it is. Then
Yeah.
they can kind of relate a little bit. Or it's just like,
Absolutely.
man, I mean, it's just like the strength of it and how that stigma, how, and you did a
Yeah.
perfect thing too. I had a lady on whose son, or I'm sorry, the son-in-law had a drinking issue. The daughter-in-law had a heroin issue.
Mm.
And she goes, just like this, Manny, she goes, we don't talk about it outside
Yeah.
the house. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I go, well, the next time we do talk about it, I go, no. I go, by not talking about it, you just put a drink in your son-in-law's hand.
Sure
And
did.
by not talking about it, you put a needle in your daughter's arm.
Yeah.
And the next time we do talk, we'll be at their funerals. She
Absolutely.
got so pissed at me. And I
Yeah.
saw her about a month later. The daughter OD'd, got her back,
Man.
but there was no more that, it was like, what did I do wrong? You
Yeah.
didn't do anything
You
wrong.
didn't do anything.
We made that choice. That first
Yeah.
time was a choice, but
Yeah.
after that is where the disease takes over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thing with my dad, him having been through addiction himself, I remember him telling me, like, he started noticing like way before my mom did. And I remember I remember that conversation like it was, this is when I was on pills really bad. It's probably about a year into my addiction. And I remember him pulling me to the side. I was actually I was in the room. I was playing, I had a Nintendo 64 at the time or something. It was Nintendo something. I was playing one of the games. And I remember him coming in there and asking me to turn the TV off. He's like, I want to talk to you. And I was like, I'm thinking, oh God, what have I done? I'm like, what have I done? I'm in trouble. So he sits down on the bed and I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, what's going on with you? He said, you used to just walk into a room and light it up. He said, and it's like you lost your shine. He's like, something's different. He's like, I don't know what it is, but it's something. And I remember that feeling of guilt, like just guilt. I remember also a feeling of wanting to say, like I need help. I'm in trouble. Like I've been doing X, Y, and Z. I've been doing these pills and I've got a problem, But also on the one hand, I had this feeling of I didn't want to disappoint my parents. And I didn't want to throw this big load on them because here I am with a newborn, and my parents always had so much faith in me. And it was like, I didn't want to let them down. And how was I going to say I'm on pills, But I remember that my dad was the one that always, he knew something was going on. He didn't know what, he just knew something was going on. And I was using some substance, and
Yep.
he was always open and conversational with me. Like, if you need help, tell me and we'll get you help, but my pride and my ego got in the way, but
No,
it affected my parents.
I knew it was your dad. And
Yeah.
how I knew that is because he was a former addict. And
Yeah.
our saying, you can't fucking lie to an addict.
You can't.
You can't lie to us.
Nope.
You can't bullshit an addict because I already said that lie.
Yeah.
I said that lie before you.
I helped create it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So
they laid the blueprint for it,
God bless your dad, man. Because
Yeah.
he knew.
Yeah, he did. He did. And like I said, I had amazing parents. I really did. My dad went through his struggles, and he went in some sought treatment and stayed clean until he passed. And I had so many opportunities to get help, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Like I said, I went through detox at one point for, and that took my parents intervening. My dad was the catalyst behind that one as well. Because at some point, like I said, I lived out on my own. I had moved out on my own, and my parents helped me because I was in school and I was working, but they would help me. I was a single mom, and my dad was on my bank account, and so I'm it's probably 9 in the morning and I hear bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, oh, is that the police? First thought was police. I was like, oh my God, the police. I'm tripping. Like I just started tripping. I'm like, oh my God, what's the police here? So I peeked through the blinds, regular drug behavior. I'm peeking through the blinds and I see my dad's vehicle. And I'm like, oh, it's my dad. So I opened up the door. Should have been a red flag because it was early and it was unannounced. But, I had just also used like 30 minutes prior. So, I was in a feel good zone, wasn't even thinking about it. And I remember him, making small chit chat and then pulling out some papers. And it was my bank statement and wanting to know, where's this money I just deposited? And I had no ready answer. No ready answer. Just, it caught me off guard. And I couldn't even, when he asked what I had spent it on, I didn't even have an answer. And I remember him saying, I love you, I love you so much. And I would never judge you, but whatever you're doing, I mean, this is his words verbatim. He said, you better get your shit together. He said, you have a child who's our grandchild, and I would hate for me and your mom to have to intervene. So please don't make us do it, And I remember about a week later, and I was on methadone at this point, and I remember about a week later, I had got sick. I didn't have any, and spent my money and used all my supply up. And that's the first time I called for help. I was like, I'm sick. Like I have a problem. And I remember my mom just crying, not, she wasn't mad. She was sad. She was sad because she didn't know what to do. My dad, I remember that's probably the third time I seen him cry. And it just, it broke my heart, it broke my heart really bad because just seeing them go through that, that they were, because like you said, in your addiction, you think I'm only hurting myself, I'm not hurting anybody else. Like I'm not hurting, but we are. Like my parents stayed up plenty of nights calling me. You know how many times they probably got an hour's worth of sleep some nights because my phone would be ringing all night because they're trying to make sure I'm not in a ditch somewhere dead. So I know they weren't sleeping, and my son, how just not being there, I used to say, I'm a great mom. Like I'm at all his school events and I'm on PTO and this, that, and the third. And, and I think about the times that I was chasing drugs or selling drugs and, all that time I was doing that, like, I wasn't present for him, when I was out, I had to go take care of this, my mom might have had to get him on the best. That was my responsibility, So yeah, when you use it, it is a domino effect. It affects everyone around you in some way, shape or form. It does.
And with your son now, I mean,
yes,
it affects all of us, like you said. And when I have people talk about their stories, it affects all of us. All of our stories are different, but when it comes to the core of it, there's so much the same. And I had an issue where talking to my mom one time during active addiction, and she's sitting across the table from me and just crying. And then she's like, she goes, you're breaking my heart. And then she starts sobbing. And here's me. I'm just like this. Yeah. Okay. I mean, just a little prick. And I remembered that years later after being sober, and that broke my heart remembering it. So as far as, I mean, we know what it did with mom and dad. How did this affect
Your son.
the relationship with your son?
Oh, it tremendously. My addiction led me to prison. Also, let me go back a little bit. Like I said, I'm a pretty high strung type of addict and very extreme. And I can talk about it now because I've already been to court on it, so can't double jeopardy. Double jeopardy can't happen. But anyway, this is one of the poor choices I made. Thinking it was okay. I was, allegedly sending stuff into one of the county jails where I'm from, and there were cell phones in there, and I had people that wanted me to come. They were going to break out, right? And so they asked me to come get them. Swear to God, this is a true story, man. I'm just going to tell you. So it's probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, and my phone rings, and it's some people I know, and they're like, "Hey, we're about to we're about to leave. And I said, leave where? I said, y'all are in the county. Where are you going? They said, well, we need you to come get us. And I'm like, y'all ain't good. Whatever. They're like, for real. So, I was like, I don't know if I feel like I had to prove myself, it's that street style. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, bet I'll be down there. So I get down there, name of unsaid county. And, and my friend also, I had my friend who, he mainly drove, like, because I was, doing illegal activities at this time. And I was in my passenger seat, and I had him park where they told me to park. And, we're just sitting there, just waiting. And I'm thinking in my mind that these people are going to walk out of the door. Well, it's like I said, about 1 o'clock. It says dark out. All of a sudden, I see in my rearview mirror a quick flash. And I'm like, what was that? Then I hear a loud bang. And there's bodies falling off of the roof. So I ate in the bed. And, a bunch of other charges, because eventually it caught up with us, and DHR stepped in and got involved with my son. I remember the day it happened, the day I got arrested, it was the next day. It's actually, it was just horrible. My son was at school, and I remember hearing and I was like, what is that? Mind you, I got these fugitives in my house, and and open the door, and they're banging on the door. They're telling me, they're about to bust it off, So I opened the door, and they flashbang. It's just horrible. My mom had just got home 30 minutes prior. She'd been out paying bills, didn't know anything about this. My mom worked at City Hall. Oh. So when she walks in, she sees my friends who I just picked up off the side of the road because their car broke down. They have, like, there's not a spot on their body or face that's not tattooed. She's like, come here, let me talk to you. So I go in there. She's like, who are these people? And I was like, this is my friend. I was like, we're about to leave. Calm down. She's like, how do you know them? Where'd you get them from? I was like, the car broke down. I didn't fed her this line of BS, right? Didn't tell her, because I'm not thinking I'm going to get caught. Like I said, I'm one of those addicts. I'm 10 foot, and I drink 10 foot tall bullets. I'm invincible. Smarter than not your average Barry, Yogi. Okay, well, yeah. So, I done told her this. So she's just like, Lord have mercy. She's blood pressure probably up out the roof, but I wasn't thinking about how it was going to affect her, nor the fact that, nor did I know 30 minutes later, the drug task force and FBI task force and U.S. Marshals were going to be breaking my door down. So, she goes in her room, and all of a sudden, like I said, here, bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, oh, it can't be. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm like, no, it can't be. But it was. So they're telling me, open the door. They're about to break it down. So I'm telling them to hide. My mom's back in her room. She don't hear any of this commotion going on. So I open the door, and they immediately jerked me out. And I remember as I hit the ground, because they threw me over my railing, I remember as I hit the ground, seeing the helicopter laying in my yard and news cameras. And I was just like, holy shit. That was like a surreal moment. That was like,
yeah.
And my mom, after all was said and done, and they took me to the county, my mom was waiting on my son to get off the bus, and he never did show up. And little did we know that DHR had called my son's father, who's clean. He got clean shortly after we separated. Amazing person, by the way. I couldn't ask for a better father for my son. But called him and told him there was an emergency and he needed to pick his son up from school. And that started the process of DHR. So my son was with me from the time he was born till he was 10 or 11 at this time. And so I basically upended his world with my dumb decisions. My mom, that affected her. So that affected her horribly, because my son was like her. My son was her everything, my son was her everything. So to have him ripped from her at my doing, and have his world just stripped from him at my doing, my bad decisions. So, but me and my, at this point today, we talk. I have a great relationship with my son. He just graduated. I was at his graduation. I talk to him every day. Amazing kid, like, to have been through what he's been through. He's so forgiving, and that's one thing with kids. They're so forgiving. But that doesn't mean that they need to keep forgiving all the time. We keep just putting them, at some point I had to say, it's got to stop. It's got to stop, because just because kids are forgiven doesn't mean we have the right to keep taking advantage of that and keep letting them down. I couldn't bear putting him through something like that again. So
No, definitely, man. I mean, I don't have any kids, but as uncle and godfather and all that, man, it's our responsibility to keep them safe and happy and nurture them.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, man, here he's forgiven you and all that. It's our responsibility to forgive them for their stupid shit that they do.
Yeah.
But that again, goes right back to the strength and the power that addiction. I mean, you've got helicopters landing in your front yard.
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible.
Flashbang going off with your buddies that just car broke down.
Yeah, well, they're just car troubles, and my mom, I remember my mom, because they had me on the ground at this point, and they're asking me who I was in the house. And I remember the guy who was the chief of police at this time, his name's Eric, him asking me, he's like, "Where's Miss Fanny?" That was my mom's name. And like I said, my mom worked at City Hall. And I was like, because I wouldn't answer, I just had to hold my ground, because that was my mind. You flew a helicopter all over here, do your job, so, but I wouldn't answer any questions, which I later got charged with resisting arrest for not answering their questions. But when he asked me where my mom was, I was like, my mom's in her room. I was like, please do not. All I could see was him going in there with guns drawn on my mother, who, mind you, was in her 60s at this point. I was like, my poor mom. Like, I was like, please do not go in there. I was like, you work with my mom. She's not going to hurt you. I was like, please do not go in there with guns drawn on my mom, which they did, which I understand it was part of their job. But, I just remember her coming out as I'm on the ground and just the look on her face of shock, of terror, of fear, confusion. It was just the emotions that displayed over her face. And then she still had that mother instinct. I'm in the wrong, but she's yelling at the police. She's like, you don't have to be so rough with her. Like that's that mama bear was coming out, Yeah. But it was just, it was to put her through that, my son through that, that was just, and I remember my mom would not talk to me I ended up getting a bond not long after that. I went to court. I had a really good lawyer. Vincent Pentecost, he's an amazing lawyer. He was just an amazing person, amazing lawyer. I know a few people he's representing. He's all about recovery too. He's also a judge, but he was my lawyer at the time, but he's tried to help me through the SAT program, IOP, all types of things. But anyway, so my mom wouldn't talk to me for about 6 months after I was incarcerated for 6 months at this point. And my mom would not answer any of my phone calls. And I remember when she finally did, she said, I love you, but I'm not going to love you to death. She said, I can't. She said, I'm watching you kill yourself. She said, I mean, she's just crying. My mom was very, she was not really, she wasn't stumped. She wasn't cold, but she wasn't really a crier like that. So to, hear her cry and hear the emotion, her say, I love you, but I'm not going to love you to death, did something to me. And that's the first time I ever got clean time. I got clean. I was clean for a year. And my mom, I ended up relapsing. I was doing really good, like really good. I was about to get joint custody of my son back. I was working at Tyson's. I had signed myself for volunteer drug testing through DHR and was passing all my tests. And I went to work one day. Me and my mom were the closest we'd been since I was young. And I remember going to work and coming in one day and I found her dead. And it was like, it just sent me over the deep end. Like, cause I remember feeling in my heart, I was like, God, I have did everything I'm supposed to do. Like I have really turned it around and I feel like you're punishing me. That was my thoughts at the time. Like,
yeah. Yes.
So it really did something to me. And then I started thinking, I was like, I've got to tell my son. That was the next thought. I was like, how am I going to tell my son? How? And it was the day after his birthday.
Oh,
And And of
So
course,
we
you
had
said
just
that they
been
were
up there
very
the day
close.
before. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was rough. We'd been up there the day before to celebrate his birthday. I got him this phone he wanted and this bike, and I got video on my phone of the day before she died up there celebrating his birthday. And we just got the news the week before that they were going to go ahead and do my court case early because I was doing so good, and they were going to go ahead and give me joint custody back. My son's father actually was like, "B, I got something to tell you." And then my caseworker called and told me, and like we were just in a really good place at this time. And remember going up there and being so proud of myself because these are gifts that I bought for him with hard-earned money I worked for. I wasn't hustling drugs or manipulate. I worked for this, and I was able to give this to him and just see the elation on his face and joy on his face, and it meant so much to me. And my mom, seeing her be proud of me again, and not seeing the stress. I remember my neighbor after she passed told me, she said that my mom had my aunt who lives across the road. She said, "Your mom told me she came and visited about a week ago, and she said, I think she's gonna be okay now. I can rest." And I remember just having this party, going to work, and because me and my mom lived together, we did everything together. Coming home and finding her, and I was just like, "What?" Just I'll never forget it. And it was just it really that was the beginning of my really fast descent again.
How soon after finding her did you use?
I'm gonna say it was probably about a month.
Afterwards?
About a month. Mm-hmm. Because I went to prison shortly after. Yeah.
So here you were clean all that time. Then this happened. You start now. How long were you using from? You said you started using. I'm sorry. Did you say a month?
About a month after. Yeah.
And then you went to prison. You went back to prison.
Yeah, I went to prison. I went to prison. I did 5.5 years at Julia Tutwiler. I got out last year actually. Prison saved my life. Let me say that. I don't wish prison on. I know it sounds weird to people. Say prison, but it did. Because I was at that point, my emotional and mental state from losing my mom, my dad also being gone. He had died 5 years prior. So my dad being gone, then my mom dying, feeling like I have no one. Just lost two of the most important people in my life and my son. Because I was in no way, I'm supposed to be there for him emotionally at this point when my mom died. And I remember, this just shows you the resilience of kids. So I remember being at my mom's casket, and it was like I was on autopilot. I remember just staring at her and just tears just pouring down my face because I'm still like I'm in shock and I'm in denial. Like I was just like, this is not real. Like I talked to her. I just kissed her and told her goodbye, and I'd see her later that night. Like what happened, And I remember feeling this little tug on my arm, and it was my son. He said, "Mama, you don't have to keep standing up here staring at her," and walking me back to my seat. Just the strength of him. That child.
Yeah.
So just having all that happen, and I just couldn't. It was like I didn't have I was clean, but I didn't have the tools I needed. And I wasn't I wasn't spiritually fit like I thought I was. Also, 'cause my spirituality, plays a big role in my recovery. So when that happened, I resorted back to what I knew to get rid of drown those feelings. And that was using.
Get rid of the pain. And,
Yeah.
And that's another thing, man. Keep going back to how strong this is.
Yeah.
We know it's only going to be temporary.
Yeah.
We know that, but it's like, it's only going to be, you're only going to feel good 10 minutes. Okay. Well, you're going to throw the last year away for 10 minutes. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That's how cunning, baffling, and powerful this is. Go ahead and use, go ahead and smoke the bowl, because I was an opiate addict, meth addict, anything I could possibly do. So it was like, go ahead, I don't want to go to sleep. You know, I don't want to feel these feelings. You know, it's even though in my mind I logically know like this is temporary. Like these feelings are going to come back. But in my addict's mind, I wanted to feel better. I was so tired of hurting, and I just, you know, this was going to be the magic cure all. You know, and I know it's not. You know, I know it's not. And in that time, also because I didn't want to be alone. You know, I have people around me. You know that I know aren't. You know, don't have my best interests at heart. Yeah, friends.
Yeah.
You know,
we understand. You know, that's just like, you know, what I talk about with drinking with me. I remember getting all these talks with my mom, just, like so pissed off. I'd leave, go to the bar, and here's all my drunk friends, and like, and I tell them, like, oh man, screw that, man. We understand. We're here for you. Here's another beer. Here, have another shot.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But then go to prison, go to jail, see who shows up, and all that stuff.
Oh man, you know, I'm telling you.
You know, so you know, here you do 5 years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you go through the loss, you know, first your dad, then your mom, and all this stuff. You get that moment where your son kind of gives that little tug. Little did you know that little tug could mean so much more at that time.
Yeah.
You know, how did that, you know, going forward, as far as, you know, we don't get help until we're ready. Like you,
we're ready.
So what was that your moment right then, or was
no? That was not my moment. That was not my moment. You know what my moment was? You know, like I said, I went to prison shortly after. So my moment was, you know, I remember I was even when I went to prison, you know, that, like you said, we're not ready till we're ready. Okay, the courts couldn't tell me I was ready. The judge couldn't tell me I was ready. Friends and family, like, you can sentence me, but I don't mean I'm ready, you know. And I went to prison, and I was still, you know, unfortunately, you would have thought after all this prior, that would have been enough to shake me. It wasn't. You know, I went to prison, and I was still using. You know, there's abundance of drugs in prison. It just is. What got me was I decided to do some meth one night. And I did not know it had fentanyl in it. Oof. And I got, so it just, that right there got me knowing that I could have, I remember when my drug test came back, because it knocked me out. I remember when my drug test came back that it said, it listed all the things I had failed for, and fentanyl's in there. And I was like, you know, I could have died. Like, I remember it's like I heard God say, I remember it was like, it was just clear as day. And what was so crazy was my friend, you know, unnamed friend, who I was also, you know, doing the drugs with right then. I broke down a line for me and her, and she had just said, she said, do you think we should do this? Because what if it's got fentanyl in it? And here's how sick this disease is. Here's how sick it is. I say, you know, even though that was a logical thing for her to say, because fentanyl's in a lot of stuff nowadays, my mind, because I wanted to get high, was like, no, we'll be all right. I don't think there's no fentanyl in there. Sure enough, I make it to, we do the line, I make it to the end of my bed, and it was like my body just went down. I was like, I remember turning around, looking at her, making eye contact, because my body felt like lead weight. And I was like, I felt myself going in and out, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. And we looked at each other at the same time. Yeah. And how I didn't overdose or die that night, you know, but I ended up having to get drug tested like prison guards, you know. And this is another thing, people, you know, that we think we're slick and being careful, you know, but people are paying attention. So I got drug tested, and I had fentanyl in my system, and me and her, you know, it just, that right there was like, you know, and I remember it was like I heard God say, they're gonna have to call your child from prison and tell them you're dead. Wow. And that right there was enough to shake me. It shook me.
So that was the moment. That was that moment. Man, I mean, so she's looking. I mean, here you're about to do it, looking at you right in the eye, and all of a sudden, you know what, B? Maybe, and then, it's good.
Because my disease told me there ain't no fentanyl in this, you know. My disease told me, you know.
and it's not only so much with us. I was talking about how people you talk about. I'm so glad you bring up so much of this stuff with the stigma and
Oh
people
yeah.
they look at each other and look at us. I was talking to someone. I brought up this scenario because I had issue with a friend who was dying from cancer,
Mhm.
and I was having a hard time, and some of the people around knew about it.
Right.
And I walk in, they're like, "What's going on, Manny?" And I was like, "Man, I got a friend of mine, not doing well. Just found out not going to make it. They're dying.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, what's going on? Cancer. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. If there's anything we can do, so
Yeah.
helpful." And I started thinking about it. And it was a little while later, I was sitting there, and I go, "Yeah, got another friend as well. It's a hard time because another friend is also not going to make it. Oh, cancer? No, addiction,
Addiction.
overdosed." They went just like this. Oh, well, that was a choice. So that's too bad. And what
Mm.
they're both dying.
They're both
One's
dying.
cancer, one's addiction. And the one they couldn't stumble over me enough to help. The other one, well, sorry, but it's just they just don't get it. And
People just don't get it, and that's where Al-Anon and stuff like that. There's so many resources, and I encourage people to, and to educate themselves about addiction. Nobody, was the first time a choice? Absolutely. Yeah, I made a choice to do it, but I have a disease, it literally took over. There's no way I would choose to go through the things that I went through, the pain I've caused, the years I've lost, the time I've lost, the emotional and mental pain I've caused people I love, and also myself. I wouldn't choose that. I don't choose that. I don't choose that. It is a disease. Somebody, like you said, if somebody has cancer, they treat it with chemo. This is just like it's the same thing. It is a disease, and it has to be treated. You have to take certain steps. Like I do 12-step. And I'm also, like I said, I'm in a sober living. So there are certain things, and I've always, my son, love him to death, love my son. Just an amazing kid, but I've always been honest with him. I'm like, I remember telling him, I said, I'm sick, having that honest conversation with him. Mommy's sick, I have a disease. And I remember when I decided to get treatment, because when I was getting ready to get released from prison, my caseworker pretty much, she thought it would be a good idea, because I'd been incarcerated so long and I was still actively using when I was in prison. And then I had this incident, with the meth and the fentanyl. And she was like, I really think a sober living would be a good idea for you. And it was such good advice. So I remember telling my son, having that conversation, like, Mommy's sick. Like, I'm sick. I have a drug and alcohol disease, and I need to get some treatment. No, I don't want to be away from you for another year. I don't want to take more time than I have, but I knew that in order for me to be the best mother I could be, and the best version of me, that I had to take this time, this 1 year, and I owed it to not only him, but to myself. I owed it to myself. That way I could get myself together, and I could have some peace again, and I could have some joy again, and I could really, I don't want to just exist in the world. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live life.
You don't want to survive, man. You want to thrive. And
I want to thrive.
and with these, what I would love to have, and we're gonna do it, man, with people like you and Lori, and doing all these things, is we need to start pushing this. When you start seeing all these commercials about, where you need a cure for cancer and MS and diabetes and ALS and all this,
Right.
and you know what? And addiction.
Add
Throw
addiction
that
to
in
it.
there with that list. And with all these things, and you are such an advocate and everything going on, getting towards where we are now with this, you are in such a wonderful place.
By the way, you're getting a lot of love in the comments, darling.
You are.
Oh,
OG
thank
is
you.
when this is over, you got to go through here, because OG's going. She's taking care of all the comments, so me and you.
Oh, okay. Well,
But,
thank you.
right now, man, why don't you take us to this part, is where you are, what what steps got you there to where you are, to the people and to this point of your life. Because I tell you, that's where I came in with OG. We met you, and like I said, you and the rest of that amazing crew that I met that day. That's it. I was like, I'm sitting with them.
Oh yeah.
I still love that picture of all of us.
I know we had such a good time. It was like that invisible thread, like we were bonded, it was just, oh man, it really was like, it was such an honor and such a blessing to be able to meet y'all, like, and all the other people, amazing people I met there. It was amazing. Just an amazing experience.
Well, where are you at now? And the name of the place. Why don't you give shout out to everything that you got going on and stuff like that? There's all that.
I am at like I said, I'm in sober living. I'm at Sisters United Recovery, which is located in Hartselle, Alabama. So if anybody is on here and also you're thinking about some help this is a really good program. It's Summer Burden is my director, along with Betty Snowdon, two amazing women that are in recovery themselves. I have an amazing sponsor. Shout out to Phyllis. I have an amazing sponsor who calls me on my shit. Let me just who can't slide nothing past her. Like, don't cut me no slack, which is, I don't need that. Sugar, sugarcoating shit is what got me, what damn near killed me. When people try to, placate you. No, she cuts me no slack, and that's something that I need. I have an amazing family, amazing support system. I'm getting ready to graduate. Also, like I said, the 29th, which is just, I'm just so grateful. And so humbled, I try to, humbleness, humility, are big parts of my recovery. I try to remind myself, like, I always want to be humble and never forget where I came from, and I always have humility. And just because I make it this far, don't think that it can't happen. You're always just one slip away, and I'm always working. I got to keep working to get further and further away from that one slip. And I want to give it away so I can keep it. I want to help the next person because somebody helped me. I got to help the next person because somebody helped me. I didn't do this on my own. Somebody helped me. My higher power, if it wasn't, the grace of God, God putting certain people in my lives, like you and Miss, y'all, putting y'all in my lives. Everybody, all y'all, I can't just say one part, like everybody that has been a part of my recovery, putting y'all in my lives. You, Miss Lynn, Lori, meeting Lori, just some of the most amazing people I've met. God has really showed up and showed out. My son has been one of the biggest driving forces for me to keep going. Recovery, that it is a selfish thing, but my son is that kick I need. That's what when I get those texts from him to say, "Good morning, Mom, I love you," it makes it just worthwhile. But yeah, just I'm doing really good. I'm getting ready to start back to school. I want to be an EMT. Yeah. So I have an amazing person in my life. So yeah.
Well, I tell you what, as far as EMT, as you know, I am a former police officer in EMT, and I part of this event that we were there for in June, where I had this awesome privilege to meet Lori and you and everyone else there. We were there for a recovery event, and actually had a situation occur where right in the middle of this event, someone dropped right in the middle of all of us, an OD right there, and to the point where they were dead, no breathing, no heart, done. And thank God, Narcan was administered.
Absolutely.
CPR was started, and before I could blink, B was right there next to that person, assisting with CPR. And Narcan, along with the other people who helped in this situation. B, you didn't blink, you didn't hesitate. And then when you just told me before we went on about you becoming, it was just like, it's no brainer. I mean, it's got you all over it, and your personality, your glow, you are something very special, and it is such an honor to have met you and everyone in Athens, Alabama, from Lori with the event, which was just like
Well, Lori's
opening
on the
door.
line. Phyllis is on the line.
Yeah, you know what? Me and
Jeanette
you've been
Butler's on the
going.
line.
Everyone's on here. So please, after we're done, OG, what she does is during these shows, because I used to, and it was just me, I'd be talking to my guest, but then I'd go over and it would just chop up the interview, man, because you lose flow of the show because you're looking over here, you're doing this. So now OG, and so you got so much love coming in. You got to check these out afterwards. But seeing you in action firsthand, you are amazing what you're going to be doing there, and just your personality. From as soon as we went on today, and I clicked you into the studio, and I heard your voice, I instinctively wanted to go like this and give you a hug. Just like, get over here.
I know. I did too. I heard we were doing aftercare, and I heard this thick accent. I was like, that's me. I was like, hold on, y'all gotta go. I was like, I hear Manny on the line.
Big accent. Wait a minute.
Accent.
That big accent, yeah.
That's right, because you did say that to me at the event. You're like, man, you got this accent. What?
I love it.
But man, I'm so happy for you, B.
Thank you so much.
And everyone there, all the sisters, all the people that I've met at the meet and greet you guys are just so amazing for the love that first and foremost for yourselves. And the way that you are just sharing it with so many others is just, we are so blessed to have you in our lives. And,
thank y'all. I'm so blessed to have met y'all. It took people like y'all, loving me till I learned how to, like I said, my directors and my family members loving me till I learned to love myself, and that makes a difference.
Well, I tell you what,
you're going to be a fabulous EMT. Just your energy.
Amazing. We're going to be.
You got that good energy.
We're going to try to. We're going to be looking stuff up because over the next, there's so much going on behind the scenes here. We're going to be doing so much more besides doing shows, doing this, actually going out, doing more events at different locations. And definitely want to come back to Alabama and see
if Lori will let us come back.
Yeah, so you're not done with us yet. So you're stuck with it. We're family, B. We're family.
We locked in.
Well, listen, B. I can't thank you enough. And
absolutely. Thank you for affording me this opportunity.
Well, before we end this, is there anything that just comes to mind that you would like to that person who is sitting there with that little boy, little girl who's struggling right now, maybe dealing with mom, dad, harassing them and all that? Any advice that you might have for somebody that was in your position?
Somebody that's in my position, what I would tell people, out there that are in addiction right now, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. We as addicts tend to think, we always have it's I'll get help tomorrow. But tomorrow sometimes doesn't come, and I've lost plenty of friends that way, loved ones that way, that they were always I'm gonna get help. They just never made it to that point, because their disease kept telling them they had one more day in them. Tomorrow's not promised to any of us. It's do it. It's the best decision you will ever make. I can't afford nobody. Like you said, we don't get help till we're ready. I just hope, and I pray, I pray for people out there in addiction all the time. Because prayer changes, prayer is powerful. And I know that it can change a lot of things. So I pray anybody out there struggling, that's thinking, seek help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. It'll be one of the best decisions you ever made. It really will. And to the people out there that don't understand it, parents and stuff that don't understand it, I always pray for empathy and open hearts and open minds within families of addicts. Because that makes a difference too when you have that support system that has an open mind and heart and is willing to learn about addiction. Don't keep it a secret. Don't keep it a secret.
No, man, I tell you, B, you're more welcome to come on anytime you want. I always tell people, there's some people that come on shows and it's just like a one and done. They just want to come on, tell their shows. And there's some I've had guests come on and I've never talked to them again. I don't see their posts, which is fine. They want to get out and do their thing. Do you? But for me, you're part of my fight our war. We're part of a family. This is never a one and done with anyone who comes out as part of this family. So you got my number. OG,
absolutely.
You hit me up anytime if there's something going on with Athens, Alabama, or any events.
Awesome. Okay.
I go on just anytime to celebrate whatever dates. So feel free to hit me up anytime, or if there's anything you want to chat about.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, B, again, what a great show.
So glad
amazing.
You're here.
And
thank you. I had an amazing time.
you are changing lives.
Thank you. So are y'all. Y'all are changing lives and saving lives.
Well, you take care, honey. We love you so much. And
see you in Alabama.
We'll see you soon.
See y'all in Alabama.
All right. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Y'all.
Man.
Good energy. Wow.
Man, I tell you what, B is going to be one amazing EMT. She's an amazing person. And she just lit it up. And
you're right. When that person OD'd, she was right there.
She was right there. I saw. I mean, she
a lot of people
fly by me. Everyone could fly by me, man. I am not the quickest anymore, but she was right there. So
and
you guys
be helpful, not just to be around and just gawk.
No,
she was there to be helpful.
So to everyone else, man, what she just said. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We're here for a reason. You get what you give and you give what you get. And B's proof of that. So thank you guys so much. And for all the love that you guys are showing, all of the comments.
That's what the family does. This family,
you guys
so
are
loving.
Just awesome. And OG for taking care of all the comments and stuff. I can't, there's some people when they do shows, they will go back and forth the comments and all that, and that's fine. I can't do it because I get focused. When I get with the whoever the guest is, that's my priority.
Well, besides, this is my job. Get off my job. Leave me alone.
Gotta do that. And plus, she has time to really dissect some of the questions and stuff like that as well. But as you guys know, man, this is all about family and trying to help and support in any way. And by the comments. And by the show going on at the same time, we're doing both. Yeah. So, again, thank you guys so much. And I see the other half of the Shenanigators showed up for the show. So, Amber, thank you. And now I'm going to just do a quick little scroll through. Hey, Tyler.
Tyler's on.
Man, don't give me that shit. Look at the OG show. That's it.
Thank you, Tyler.
I'm not doing part 2 of that show now. I'm just messing with you, brother. It is it's great to see you guys, man. It's a happy time to come on here, and anytime I go live and see the comments and see the your names, it's a happy place for me personally. We all do our thing for addiction, and this is what helps me is when I pop over and I have this amazing guest on that I'm talking with. And then I look over and I see your guys' names who are a part of this conversation, part of this family. So Tyler, Amber,
Diane Hayes was on too.
Jeanette,
and
Danny Gibson, Vincent, and the ones who Diane.
Mm-hmm.
And
Donald Blow was on.
Donald and just anyone because
Heidi
as like I said, also Heidi was on. Didn't see her. See, that's another thing with the monitor for whatever reason. So the good thing
Phyllis Klaber was on.
OG will see on the monitor on her phone. I'll see him over here.
Yeah,
Phyllis and all the other amazing people that we were able to meet. Nicole. Brittany, Nicole is back. How you doing, Nicole? I haven't seen your name in a while, man. Hope all is good with you.
Vincent comes out a lot.
I said Nicole.
No, but I'm just saying.
Oh, Vincent. Vincent was on earlier with Thomas and
he came back.
The wedding fiasco. So Vincent, thank you for popping on. Then, like I said, Nicole. Jeremy Ross, my man, Jeremy, Phyllis Klaber. It's always nice to talk to, Phyllis. And, we talked about just briefly what happened with the event, and I'll, seeing what happened, and it was pretty intense, and it really hurt a lot of people in different ways.
I want to
Phyllis,
share one
right
thing.
there,
When you're-
Phyllis.
what Amber said. She goes,
Phyllis,
oh,
well, this is during when we had that OD, man. What
yeah.
it did, Phyllis said that it brought back triggers of her son, Ethan.
Yeah.
He, so all these things that happen, but we're here and we're
Trey.
family. So thank you.
Trey.
Jeanette celebrating 18 months today. Jeanette, congratulations to you, man. That is awesome. Right here. I just saw that pop up, celebrating 18 months.
But I was like, Amber had said she remembered when she first started watching, she never saw OG and wondered who you were talking to. The people that he sees in his visions.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's when I look
like,
up into these lights next to these little purple flying elephants. What, she just posted that?
Yeah.
Oh, see, it's not up here. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, here it is. I remember when I first started watching, I never saw OG and wondered who he was talking to. What do you mean?
Talking to himself.
Yeah, just looking out. See, right now, I always tell people I'm looking outside the weather. There's no window over here.
Actually, there is, but we won't say anything.
No, there is.
Okay, fine.
There actually is a window.
It's just closed.
Yeah, it's closed. Let's see. I got anything else? Wait a minute. They're losing? Shit. The Tigers are losing. Amber, if you're still here, what's the score? Danny Gibson. What an amazing show. Manny OG. Put yourself back on bringing us the shows. My Fight Our War. Danny, it's really good to see you guys. Oh, and also Danny, Katie, great job. They were there with Skylar and Kayla for, I think it was stop 97, 8, 90. It's what, anyways, it's on Facebook. Check it out. Danny Gibson, along with Katie, doing a great job with Kayla and with Skylar and the We Do Recovery Tour. So check out my brother Skylar and all they're doing over there as well. And Danny and Katie, thank you for all you guys do, as always. And then there's Tyler with the let's see. Let's rename his show now, since he's renaming it the OG show. We're gonna I'll come up with some. Tyler, we'll call it the Ty Show for Ty. Sister Ty over there at Scar Nation. She's taking over your show. How do you like that, Tyler? Jeanette Butler, congratulations again on the 18 months. That is so cool. Jacqueline, there's the other half of the Shenanigators. She just saw that, the 18 months too. Let's go. Congratulations. He was always talking to someone on his left. See, actually, if I go like that, though, it looks like my right. But anyways, yep. 3-0. Damn it. Stop number 98. Thank you, Dan. Amber, it's okay. We're still number 1.
Yes.
We are. Tyler, my next episode is this Wednesday at 4:30. I'm having Aaron Cochran on. He's got a great testimony. Okay. I tell you what, Tyler, they're all great, man. That's one thing I've learned doing this is, sometimes people will look, I've had certain people when I first started doing this who would reach out and they're like, who are some, good guests to have? And I'm like, all of them.
They're all good guests.
It's like, certain people would want like personalities or a big name. Who's a big
blood
name?
And guts.
A big name is Tyler. A big name is Danny Gibson, Amber, Jacqueline,
Donald Blow,
B,
Vincent,
Donald
Jeanette,
Blow,
Nicole.
Lori, Phyllis. That's who's
Jeremy.
a big name. Every single name that's on our part of our family, every single name that comments
That's
on
a big
here
family. That's
is
a big
name. It's an important name, and that's who needs to be heard. Not someone whose name is because they're a celebrity or an athlete. That means nothing to me. What means something is all of us who are willing to share our stories, and not only share our stories, but to support others as well, just like B did. B she lit it up, man. She really did a great job. Her, like we said before she went on, we were talking in the green room. you could just feel the energy.
Mhm.
And
She was glowing.
yeah, I mean, just seeing her remind me of something Lori said earlier. We had Donald Blow on as a guest. And when he first
Who was on
started,
earlier? It might still be on.
it
Not
was,
sure.
yeah, when he first started, plus if you're not used to doing this stuff, sometimes you get a little nervous. And Donald was doing great. Yeah, he was kind of guarded, or just he was just doing his thing. There was Donald being Donald. And all of a sudden, it was, I mean, people noticed it. I noticed it, and everyone was chiming in, telling them. And Lori made a comment. She goes, "You could see where Donald was like almost like born again, or because all of a
Yeah, all that
sudden
energy just
you could just see
See,
where all of a
is
sudden
glowing again.
Donald was like at peace with telling his story, doing a
energy,
live
beaming.
show,
Mhm.
and man, I mean, the comments that were coming in were just awesome, and which was our family again. I did that as well. Seems to help me a
Meaning she
lot.
watches lives as opposed to going to meetings because they help her.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what, and you know
Mhm.
what, Jacqueline. Like
The
I
same
said,
thing with
there's no
Amber said the
wrong way,
same
man.
thing.
The only wrong way is to do nothing.
Mhm.
That's it. But it's been a long day. We've been doing shows since 3:30. Jumped on with 4 o'clock with my brother Thomas
Mhm.
with My Brother's Keeper of Bikers podcast, and hearing about him and Sophia and Costa Nation and the wedding and Sophia sinking in the backyard.
She had high heels
She
in the
had high
backyard.
heels
It was all
in
muddy.
the swamp where they had rain, but it ended up being a beautiful day.
Mhm.
Thomas was, you could just see.
He was also glowing.
Yeah, I mean, every time he talks about it and the whole situation. So, congratulations to Thomas and Sophia, and of course, B for sharing her story tonight,
Mhm.
and for all of you for being part of this family.
Sending all the love
Thank you
and
for
support.
putting up with my bullshit and the schedule and the changes and not being on and all that with all those changes that are happening. Is the one thing that'll happen is you're not getting rid of me. So there, except I'm all tangled up here in the knot. Susie.
She's sleeping. Leave her alone.
No, she
She's
must
sleeping.
have grabbed my headset.
Okay.
I'm all tied up in knots. All right, time to go. I gotta let's have some healthy food, some pizza and cheesecake or something. So you guys have a great night. And again, thank you all for your support,
Good night,
and keep fighting a good fight. Oop.